Yo, what's happening? I was just furiously, with a great deal of fury, tweeting today about what was happening with the Toys R Us thing. That Toys R Us is apparently going to close their stores and all that stuff. And I just kept engaging with people about memories we had of shopping at Toys R Us or whatever when you were younger, and I kept doing it more and more and more, and then I just thought this should be a video. We should just talk about that. But it's really sad. Toys R Us might be closing. Now, it's not confirmed. I mean, it's probably happening, but now I'm hearing rumors that somebody might swoop in and keep some of them open, whatever. But in some way, they are about to be impaired. They're about to be downsized in some form, I can imagine. But even if they're not, it's a moment to reflect on Toys R Us. I'm curious how many people watching this, if it was a big part of your childhood, because I know, our videos here attract a younger audience and probably younger than me. So I'm just curious what, if it was the same for you. Because for me, that was fucking integral. Like, Toys R Us was the ultimate reward. Okay, you got A's on that, test or whatever. We're going to Toys R Us. I remember my dad used to use it as an alternate. I remember we used to go to the San Diego County Fair. Well, I mean, I've recorded stuff at the fair before, but, there's all those games there that are so expensive to play. I mean, relatively, if you want to win anything, you spend $100 to throw the thing at the damn wall or whatever. But I remember my dad used to be, hey, you could try to win this shitty stuffed toy 100 times, or I'll take you to Toys R Us after this and just buy you any toy you want. And it would end up being cheaper for him, so I could see as a parent why that was cool. But as a kid, I didn't care. I was like, yeah, they got everything I wanted, Toys R Us. When you're at the fair and you see this stuffed fucking Pikachu, you think that's what you want, but Toys R Us is where all the Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers and all that shit were. So anyway, so that was always the big reward, And what was funny about going to Toys R Us is you knew where, every aisle was super distinct. Oh, this aisle, it's all the girl stuff. It's all pink. Oh, this aisle is all the G.I. Joe and Tonka trucks, the tough stuff. This aisle is Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, Spider-Man, whatever. But you never wanted to go too far, because if you went too far, it was the dimly lit aisle with the powdered milk and diapers. You never wanted to go that far. If you went that far, you probably lost your mom and dad somewhere in the store, so you better go run and find them. But anyway, and who knows who'd be lurking over there. That was always that scary-ass aisle. And then I remember in the early it's funny because I remember when I turned, I don't know, maybe 12, 13, my mom said to me, we went to Toys R Us to pick up some fancy-ass Power Rangers thing. I was into Power Rangers my whole childhood until, around high school I started dropping off of it. But I remember going there for something, and my mom was like, man, in a couple of years, you're not even going to want to go here ever again. And how, wrong could she be? Because, well, actually, to a point, she was right, because the store would still get exclusive stuff. They would still get, I'm a sucker for all the old vintage Power Rangers stuff, and they would do like replica weapons and things like that. There'd be exclusive Star Wars stuff, whatever. And as a collector and being older, sometimes I'd have to still go to Toys R Us to get these exclusive things. I wasn't too fond of that, because they wouldn't have a hard release date on some of those things. So, I'm a fucking grown-ass man that has to check a Toys R Us every day. I'll be honest, that wasn't that fun. But, I mean, she was wrong in the sense that I wouldn't go back, at least without kids. But, I don't know, it's weird to think that there will be kids now that don't have that big toy store experience. And I'm not one of those people that are like, oh, kids today, they don't have it as good as us, man. They don't... I'm not one of those people. I think things evolve and change and get better and all that bullshit. But that's still an experience. That's still a physical, tangible experience that they just won't have. I'm not necessarily crying doom because of that, but it is weird that they won't have that, because really Toys R Us was kind of one of a kind. You know, there really isn't another store like that. I mean, you can go to the toy aisle and Toys R Us and Walmart or whatever, and that's cool, but that's not really the all-encompassing experience. Of course, what I remember was, again, as I described the store before, when I was younger, everything was clearly defined. Every aisle, you knew what it was. I remember, and I'm curious if anybody else remembers this, when the store kind of got redesigned in the early 2000s, or somewhere around there, it became kind of a labyrinth of bullshit. Do you remember that? Like, I think the stores went through this phase where it was like, yeah, we're going to reorganize all the aisles and you're going to have to like go through all this shit. It looked like it looked like somebody messed the store up. Does anybody else remember that, or is that just me? I'm curious, but I just remember I would still, you know, like I said, in the early 2000s, I phased out of Power Rangers because they weren't remaking the vintage stuff yet now, and now I fucking spend more than ever on Power Rangers bullshit. But anyway, but in the early 2000s, I was going for Star Wars because the prequels were still kind of in their prime. It wasn't until 2005 that Revenge of the Sith was out. And I went there for stuff all the time. Not all the time, but occasionally. But I remember when they redesigned the stores, I didn't want to go there. I was like, fuck this. This is too confusing. And I have to imagine a lot of other people felt that way too. It just didn't, you know, I didn't know where anything was. It was just labyrinthine, which is a great word I love to use. But anyway, yeah, so I don't know kind of what happened there. It seems like maybe it's more organized now. I feel like when I have gone there recently, and I was only there a week ago because I was checking to see if they had something. But I feel like it's easier to find stuff now. I don't know if they reverted a lot of stuff back or if I'm just smarter than I was in the early 2000s. I don't know, but I do imagine they took a hit. I remember hearing about that in the early 2000s, but I have so many great memories, though, from a long time ago of that place. You know, it was a place I had to go out of necessity in my adult years, but when I was younger, it really was, you know, exciting. All the little things that were custom only to that place, like the infamous tickets on the wall for video games. Like, in case you never got to experience this, they had a whole wall of all the video games, but it was just, the video games weren't out on the shelf. They were pictures. They were almost like little leaflets on the wall that you could like look at the cover and then flip it over and see the back, and it would give you all the info on the game. And if you wanted the game, there was a ticket under it, like a paper about you know, yay big, whatever. And you would take that out and you would pay for it at the register, and then they would tell you to take that ticket and your receipt over to this booth, this shady ass looking booth in the corner, and that was where they locked down all the video games, because video games were very expensive. I mean, they are what they are now, but even more so back then. Some of these games, a lot of people don't remember, but there were Super Nintendo games that were like $75 and stuff. I think I paid that for, or I think my family did. I don't think I paid for it. It was more my brother's thing when he was a kid, was Mega Man X, the Mega Man X games. And I feel like he paid like $75 for those. I know we paid almost $80 for Final Fantasy 3 or 6 or whatever at that time. But anyway, but they kept that shit all locked up in the back, and it was like golden ticket when you would go pick up those tickets and stuff. You know, it was, you know, you clutch that like it was just fucking gold, and it was just awesome. You know, and it's not like, you know, oh, that's the way it should be, or that's the way. I'm never a fan of like, if I could go back to my childhood, you know, it's not even that kind of shit. It's just, there's something fun about the anticipation of it. You have the ticket; it hasn't become a game yet. You know what I mean? And then only at the end do you hold a game, you know, and now it's just kind of like, hand me that game. All right, cool. Which is fine. Again, that's probably better, but it's still, you know, sometimes it's fun to think about the little unnecessary things that ended up being kind of fun. But anyway, I remember getting the Nintendo 64 the day it came out. I think I had reserved it there because I saved up as a kid. I saved up for that for a year because I heard about it, you know, all the Japanese news came in like a year before or whatever, and I just saved and saved and saved. And then, if I recall correctly, tell me if I'm wrong, if anybody there remembers, I think they bumped up the release date and lowered the price. Am I crazy that they did that? But I just remember thinking, I remember everyone was so excited. Oh, they bumped up the release date of Nintendo 64. It's coming out earlier. How cool. But I remember as a kid thinking, I thought I had like another month to save up. I was fucking not happy because I wanted it day one, and I was worried that, you know, it was going to sell out, and I didn't want to, you know, deal with all that. I was scared, and I was dying to play it, but I wasn't going to have the money in time. So I think my grandma kicked in some money. I think we had to help her set up something at her house, or like, you know, do chores or something like that, and she kicked in the rest or something like that. Or, you know, I don't remember if I paid her back or not. But anyway, I remember bringing that ticket up, and the woman in that booth was so cranky. She was like, all right, let me, well, she wasn't smoking a cigarette, but that's just kind of the image. You know, Anyway, all right, listen, if you're going to want to return this later, we're not going to take it back if you spill anything on it. She looked right at me like I was such a fucking tubby kid that I was surely going to get food into the system. And she's like, you got to bring back the box, the envelope, or... I guess there's an envelope in there. The instruction booklet. And I remember specifically she emphasized the twist ties on the bags. You better bring it all. You know, like, she was so pissy about being around kids all the time, I guess. But anyway, but I remember, you know, picking stuff up like that. I got a Sega Nomad there at Toys R Us. I got all kinds of stuff. That was so exciting to get it there, because again, like, you wouldn't get it until the very end of your day there, you know. So that was always really cool. I remember picking up Mario Kart 64 when that came out at that Toys R Us, and in front of me was I'm sorry, I don't know football. Joe Theismann? Joe Theismann. Didn't he have like a bad leg injury or something? Some football player was in front of me, and he was picking it up too, and I thought that was kind of cool. Anyway, but yeah, so getting video games there, that was really fun. That was the first time. I remember, even when we just had the NES, my family, I remember going down that aisle, and I'd never looked at the NES games there before, and looking at all the games, and I remember we had Mega Man 2 forever, but it was like, let's go see what else they have, and they had Mega Man, I guess Mega Man 3 was out, but they still had Mega Man 1, and that was the first time I'd seen that terrible cover art, and I was like, what the fuck is that? I didn't say fuck because I was a kid. My dad wouldn't have bought me the game. But, yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about seeing that for the first time there. So anyway, but I remember going there. Oh my God, I went there all the time for Ninja Turtles. And then, you know, for me, Ninja Turtles, that was, I mean, I was all about it, whatever. But it never, Ninja Turtles hit at that right time as a little child where it was just like, oh, this is dazzling me. Yeah, give me all the Ninja Turtles. Okay. But Power Rangers hit at that time where I was like cognizant of shit. And that was when it could be fully like Ninja Turtles, you're kind of like a kid who just loves Ninja Turtles, but Power Rangers I was old enough to be a fanboy. Does that make sense? There is a difference, I feel like. Kids will go for anything and they'll obsess over anything, but a fanboy, you're headed that direction. You're headed this direction, you know. But anyway, so I remember going there many times but you know, because Power Rangers, when that came out, was the toys they could not keep them in stock. They just could not make them fast enough. And I remember they would actually have days where, okay, you could get a voucher, and at some point you'll get some stuff, or they would set up a card table in the back room, and it would be like, what do you want, Power Ranger or an evil space alien? I'll take a evil space alien. And you couldn't pick. They would just keep it orderly. They'd hand you Goldar. And they would tell you, okay, you know, if there's anyone in the store you want to trade with, go ahead. But we can't pick up, you know. Very weird stuff. But I remember my dad has done stuff like this before too. And now I know where he got it from. But I remember my grandma, his mom, taking us to Toys R Us as kids. And we saw the Parantis head monster, which was a rare figure at the time, behind the counter, clearly on hold for someone. And my grandma walked up and she's like, you know, what's going on with the fish guy over there? And they were like, oh, it's on hold. And she was like, it's on hold for me. Oh, you're Brad from La Mesa? I'm Brad's grandmother. And they would sell it to her. And it's like, oh my God, some kid was probably crying. I don't think my family quite understood the magnitude of doing that. But I guess they just cared about their kids a lot. I remember, just on the grandma subject, I remember my grandma specifically when we were looking for the deluxe Megazord, going down an aisle, and my grandma saying to the employee, she wanted to ask on behalf of me and my brother, who were little kids at this point. So she walked up and went, "Do you have X Megazos?" And that dude just looked at her like, "Are you having a stroke? Are you okay?" So that's an in-joke in our family. If there's a big robot, my mom or my dad will be like, "Oh, X Megazos." Jesus, what? Anyway, but yeah, so there's all kinds of stuff like that. But I have to say, I should say, so you could get a voucher for rare stuff. And we found out that they were going to release the Dragon Dagger, which was the Green Ranger's, whatever. And, but they didn't know when it was going to come out. This was around 94. And then, sure enough, it came out, and they called my house during the O.J. Simpson white Bronco chase. Famous car chase. If you've ever, you know anything about it. And my mom and dad were glued to the TV like, "Holy shit, are you seeing this?" And then Toys R Us was like, "Hi, we have the Dragon Dagger that you asked for. You have until we close to come get it." I mean, it was like, my dad was, we didn't have DVR or anything back then. So my dad was like, "I have to leave now. I can't, this is history. Look at the..." But, my dad was my dad, and he would have done anything for his kids. And he left in the middle of this historic thing. And people at the store were, like, in the back watching this, And he was just like, give me the Dragon Dagger, give me... I was the happiest kid, because I did not care. I didn't know anything about O.J. Simpson or what was going on with that. But, I had the dagger, that's all I needed. So anyway, man, that was, I've always appreciated my parents for that. They would do anything for us, including many trips, which I'm sure were harrowing to Toys R Us. And in fact, that brings me to the next thing, the biggest hype that I ever saw at Toys R Us. And I remember specifically my dad taking us to there, and the biggest aisle of all of them, and bigger than it is now, way bigger. I'm talking wall to wall, was Star Wars figures. And I didn't watch Star Wars until, honestly, I was in junior high. And I remember my dad seeing that wall-to-wall just cacophony of Star Wars figures, and my dad going, "Man, I am glad you guys never got into that." Just in the sense that, like, I mean, my dad liked the Star Wars movies, and so did my mom, but it just seemed like such an expensive thing to get into with all these walls of figures, And then I saw them in 7th grade, and I needed all the figures. And also, I played Shadows of the Empire on Nintendo 64, and it just woke up this whole universe for me, and I was fucking hooked. So I needed all the figures. And the biggest thing that I ever saw at Toys R Us was the release of the Star Wars Episode 1 toys in 99. When those finally came out, it was pandemonium at the store. And you had you could tell there were scalpers there, but people ripping apart stuff, and all they had was fucking Boss Nass by the time a lot of people got there. But I was able to get, I think, Qui-Gon and Anakin, and I didn't even know who they were, but they were Jedi. Well, I knew who Anakin was gonna be, but Qui-Gon was a Jedi. I had to get him. I think I might have got young Obi-Wan too, because it's Obi-Wan. But you had there was one scalper in particular poking around, going, "Mace Windu, hey, you got Mace Windu? Who's got Mace Windu?" Mace Windu was like the one that there was only one to a box or something like that. But I remember going back like a week or two later, and they had Rune Hako and Newt Gunray, the two racist alien caricatures at the beginning of the voice, where the voices you just go watch the movie, But anyway, yeah, so they had those on the shelf, and I grabbed them, and some scalper dude was pissed. He was like, "Those are right off the fucking truck. How did I miss this?" He just kept like scowling around like I was gonna hand it to him, but I was like, fuck that. But as somebody pointed out on Twitter, who the hell would be that mad about not getting a Newt Gunray figure? Funny to think about that now, but at that time, that was, jeez. And I remember, I don't remember anything going on for Attack of the Clones when that came out. But when Revenge of the Sith came out, huge midnight thing. I mean, because it kind of reinvigorated a lot of shit, because it was, Darth Vader was back in it, and it was kind of more closely tied to the original movie. So people went a little more nuts, I felt like. And man, the midnight thing there for that, I mean, people were just knocking shit over and trying to find different, this one's labeled Anakin, but this one's labeled Darth Vader, even though he's not in the suit. Oh, okay. You know, it was just pandemonium. That was the place to go for the midnight, like, Star Wars shit. And, you know, I have to say, too, that even over the years, why I may have not loved going there, they still had good deals on video game stuff every now and then. They would have something that nobody else had, or they'd have, we got the new 3DS. These guys don't, but we do, and, so every now and then you'd pop in or go in on a Black Friday, and it's like, there's some good shit here, I always found the prices to be pretty reasonable on the stuff that I liked, but I did always hear that other people, or people who were parents, said that the prices were way too high, or a lot higher than Walmart or Target. I never found that to be the case with the stuff that I was into, namely Power Rangers or Star Wars or video games. I never found that to be the case, but I guess with other stuff for kids, they weren't the best deal. But I never had that problem. I always liked shopping there. Like I said, it's not like I love going there now. I don't really care for the exclusives that I'm looking for to go there that I have to, like, just put them online. Let me just, I'm fucking old. Just let me click a thing and get it. I don't need to show my face to some place. But I see people my age and older with kids, and the kids are really happy. And I guess it's that aspect of it that I just feel like, man, that will just not happen anymore. Theoretically, again, I have a feeling some stores are going to stay open. I can't see it being outright totally eradicated. I would just be shocked by that. But in one way or another, it is changing, and it is a little bit crazy. It makes me sad, that a lot of them might be going away, if not all. It just, as an experience, I'm going to miss it. So, yeah. It's weird to think, that's kind of a place where I learned the value of money, too. I had to actually hold it and count it and get it however many, tables I had to set up or whatever. It's hard to imagine now that if I want something, if I'm a kid and I want a toy, you get it online, it's coming from a credit card that I don't even have any control over. I don't know. I don't know what to think of that. Again, I don't like to cry doom and gloom. That's not my thing. But I just wonder where all that's headed and how kids are going to fit into all that and I don't know. I don't know what you think. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about Toys R Us for a minute. So sorry if this is full of a bunch of bullshit, but I just thought it was worth bringing up instead of tweeting and tweeting and tweeting and tweeting and tweeting. So anyway, Jeffrey, I didn't like Jeffrey. The giraffe thing was, they made him look realistic after 9/11. Look that up. That's not a joke. Weird. Anyway, they had Jeffrey dollars. Remember? That was like money you could spend in the store. I'm not even getting into that. Anyway, thank you for listening to me ramble off. R.I.P. TRU.